You are dying inside, and you know it. Every single day you wake up, and the first thing you do is check your phone, scrolling through social media, looking at what others are doing, comparing your life to their carefully curated highlight reels, and feeling that familiar ache in your chest, that hollow sensation that tells you something is fundamentally wrong. You are seeking validation from people who do not even know you exist, from a society that has programmed you to be a beggar of approval, a beggar of recognition, a beggar of love. And the tragedy, my friends, the absolute tragedy, is that you have been doing this for so long that you have forgotten who you were before the world told you who you should be. Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to tell you will either wake you up or make you close this video. And honestly, both responses tell me everything I need to know about where you are in your journey. You are addicted to validation. Yes, addicted. Just like an alcoholic needs another drink, just like a gambler needs another bet. You need another like, another compliment, another nod of approval from someone, anyone, to feel that you are worth something. And this addiction is killing you slowly, so slowly that you do not even notice the death happening. Your spirit is suffocating under the weight of other people's opinions, and you keep piling more weight on top, thinking that somehow, if you just get enough approval, enough recognition, enough validation, you will finally feel complete. But you never do you? Because validation is like drinking salt water when you are thirsty. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. I see you sitting there at 47, 52, 58 years old, and you are still waiting for someone to tell you that you are good enough. Your parents never did, not really. Your ex-spouse certainly did not. Your children are too busy with their own lives. Your colleagues are too caught up in their own validation seeking to notice yours. And so you scroll, you post, you perform, you pretend, hoping that somewhere in this digital circus, someone will throw you a crumb of recognition that will make you feel alive for just a moment. But here is what nobody is telling you, what nobody wants to tell you, because there is an entire industry built on keeping you insecure, keeping you seeking, keeping you dependent on external approval. The moment you stop seeking validation, the moment you truly stop, not just intellectually, but in the very core of your being, everything changes. Not some things, everything. Let me paint you a picture, and I want you to really see yourself in this scenario, because I know you will. It is Sunday morning. You have spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing the perfect outfit, doing your hair just right, putting on makeup that looks natural but took 45 minutes to apply. You go to brunch with friends, and the entire time you are not really present. You are performing. You are monitoring your words, your laugh, your posture, wondering if they think you look good, if they approve of your new haircut, if they are judging the fact that you ordered the salad because you are trying to lose weight, or would they judge you more if you ordered the burger. You take a photo, spend 15 minutes filtering it, write a caption that sounds casual, but you have rewritten 4 times, and then you post it. And then what do? You check. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, how many likes, who liked it, who did not like it, why did not she like it, we were just together. Does this mean she does not really like me? and your entire sense of self-worth for that day, maybe for that week. Rides on the response to a photograph that does not even really represent the experience you just had because you were too busy worrying about how to present the experience to actually experience it. Does this sound familiar? Of course it does. And the really funny thing, and by funny I mean tragic, is that everyone else at that brunch was doing exactly the same thing. All of you sitting together, all of you alone, all of you performing for each other, none of you actually connecting, because real connection requires vulnerability. And vulnerability requires that you stop caring about validation. You see, validation seeking and authentic connection cannot coexist. They are opposites. When you are seeking validation, you are wearing a mask. And masks cannot kiss, masks cannot embrace, masks cannot love or be loved. They can only perform. Now, let me tell you what is really at stake here. And I want you to feel this in your bones, because this is not some abstract spiritual concept I am sharing with you. This is about your actual life, the one life you have. The days that are passing right now while you are busy seeking approval from people who are too busy seeking approval to give you what you need. If you do not break this pattern, if you do not stop this addiction to validation right now, you will reach the end of your life and realize that you never actually lived. You will have spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this planet, and you will have been a ghost, a performance, a reflection of other people's expectations, but never yourself, never truly yourself. And that realization, my friend, that realization at the end is the most bitter pill a human being can swallow. To know that you had a chance, you had this miraculous opportunity to be alive, to be conscious, to experience existence. And you traded it for likes and approval and validation from people who were just as lost as you were. But here is where it gets worse. And yes, it gets worse. Your children are watching you. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, they are learning from you right now. They are learning that their worth comes from outside themselves. They are learning to be beggars. They are learning to perform rather than to be. You are passing on this disease, this spiritual disease of validation seeking, to the next generation. And if you think social media is bad now, if you think the pressure to perform is intense now, imagine what it will be like for them growing up in a world where artificial intelligence can create perfect versions of people, where virtual reality can make fantasy indistinguishable from reality, where the pressure to be validated will be 1,000 times more intense than what you are experiencing. And you are teaching them right now by your example that this is how life should be lived, that their worth is determined by others, that they should spend their precious life energy seeking approval rather than living authentically. And let us talk about your relationships, because this is where validation seeking does its most devastating work. You cannot have a real relationship when you are constantly seeking validation. Impossible. Because a real relationship requires two people who are already whole, two people who come together not to complete each other, not to validate each other, but to share their completeness, to celebrate existence together. But when you are seeking validation, you enter relationships as a beggar and you turn your partner into a vending machine. You put in certain behaviors, certain performances, and you expect validation to come out. And when it does not come out, or when it does not come out in the quantity or quality you expected, you feel betrayed, you feel angry, you feel resentful. But the truth is, you were never in a relationship at all. You were in a transaction. You were using another human being as a tool for your validation addiction, and they were probably using you for the same thing, and you call this love. This is not love. This is mutual exploitation dressed up in romantic language. Let me ask you something and be honest with yourself, because I am not there to judge you, and frankly, your answer does not affect me at all, but it affects everything about your life. When was the last time you did something, anything, without considering how it would be perceived by others? When was the last time you made a choice based purely on what you wanted, what you felt, what resonated with your inner being, without that little voice in your head asking, what will people think? For most of you, you cannot remember. For some of you, the answer is never. You have never, not once in your entire life, made a decision that was completely free from the need for external validation. And you wonder why you feel empty. You wonder why, despite having achieved things, despite having relationships, despite having possessions, you still feel like something is missing. What is missing is you, the real you, the you that exists before society, before conditioning, before the need for approval. That you is buried under layers and layers of performance, and it is suffocating, and it is screaming to be let out, and that scream manifests as depression, as anxiety, as that vague sense of dissatisfaction that follows you everywhere, that you try to medicate with shopping, with food, with alcohol, with busyness, with more validation seeking. And here is the really insidious part, the part that keeps you trapped. The validation seeking creates a cycle that reinforces itself. You seek validation because you do not feel worthy. When you get validation, you feel worthy for a moment, which teaches your brain that validation equals worth, which makes you seek more validation, which makes you more dependent on external sources for your sense of self, which makes you feel less inherently worthy, which makes you seek even more validation. It is a downward spiral, and the further down you go, the harder it becomes to even imagine that there is another way to live. You become so identified with the validation seeking that you think it is who you are. You think the performance is your identity. And the thought of stopping, the thought of just being yourself without the performance terrifies you, because you do not even know who that self is anymore. Now, let me tell you about money, because I know many of you are interested in this topic, and validation seeking has destroyed more financial lives than any market crash ever could. When you are seeking validation, you spend money you do not have on things you do not need to impress people you do not like. You buy the car that makes a statement. You live in the house that looks good to others, even if it financially stresses you. You take vacations you cannot afford because you need the photos, you need the story, you need the validation that comes from being seen as successful, as someone who has made it. And meanwhile, you are drowning in debt. You are one emergency away from financial disaster. You are working a job you hate to maintain a lifestyle that is designed to impress others, and you call this success. This is not success. This is slavery with better marketing. Real wealth, and I mean this in both the financial and spiritual sense, comes from inner validation. When you know your worth, when you do not need others to confirm it, you stop spending money on performance. You start spending money on what actually matters to you. You invest in experiences that genuinely fulfill you, not experiences that look good on social media. You invest in your growth, in your peace, in your freedom. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to look wealthy to gain validation, you often become actually wealthy because you are not hemorrhaging money on the performance anymore. You are making financial decisions based on your actual values and goals, not on what will make others think you are successful. But here is what nobody tells you about financial success, and this is important, so listen carefully. Money will never fill the void that validation seeking creates. Never. I have known billionaires who were just as desperate for validation as homeless people. The amount of money changes, the toys get more expensive, but the emptiness remains, because the emptiness is not about what you have, it is about who you think you are. If you think you are what others think of you, then no amount of money, no amount of success, no amount of achievement will ever be enough, because other people's opinions are unstable, they change, they are unreliable, and you are building your entire sense of self on quicksand. And then you wonder why you feel anxious all the time. You are anxious because at some level you know that your entire identity is based on something completely outside your control. Let me share something with you about my own journey. Not because I want you to validate me, I am long past needing that, but because it might illuminate something for you. There was a time when I was very concerned with being seen as a great teacher, as someone profound, as someone important. And I would give talks, and afterwards I would notice myself watching for reactions, listening for praise, feeling deflated when someone criticized me, feeling inflated when someone praised me. I was on an emotional roller coaster, and others held the controls. And one day I realized something so simple yet so profound that it changed everything. I realized that whether people thought I was a great teacher or a terrible teacher had absolutely nothing to do with reality. It had everything to do with their conditioning, their expectations, their level of understanding, their mood that day, 1,000 factors that had nothing to do with me. And I realized that I was giving away my power, my peace, my sense of self to people who were themselves confused, who were themselves seeking validation, who were themselves lost. It was like asking a blind man for directions. Absurd. And in that moment of seeing the absurdity, something dropped. The need for validation simply dropped, not because I worked hard at dropping it, not because I practiced some technique, but because I saw clearly that it was based on a false premise. The premise that others know who I am better than I know who I am. And when that need dropped, everything changed. My talks changed because I was no longer performing, I was sharing. My relationships changed because I was no longer seeking anything from anyone. I was simply being available, present. My sense of peace became unshakable because it was no longer dependent on anything external. And paradoxically, When I stopped seeking validation, people started validating me more. But by then, I did not need it. So it was just amusing, just something that happened, not something that defined me. You see, people can smell desperation. When you need their validation, they often withhold it, consciously or unconsciously. When you do not need it, they often give it freely. But by then, you are free, so it does not matter either way. Now, I want to give you something practical, something you can actually use. Because I am not interested in just talking about problems. I am interested in solutions, in transformation, in actual change in your life. So let me give you the first key to stopping this validation seeking pattern. The first key is awareness, not judgment, not criticism, just pure awareness. For the next week, I want you to become a witness to your own validation seeking behavior. Do not try to stop it. Do not judge yourself for it. Just watch it. Watch how many times a day you check social media for validation. Watch how you change your behavior when someone is watching versus when you are alone. Watch how you dress, how you speak, how you present yourself, and notice how much of it is authentic versus how much is performance. Watch how you feel when you get validation, that little hit of pleasure, and watch how quickly it fades, how soon you need another hit. Watch how you feel when you do not get validation, that little sting of rejection, that little voice that says, maybe I am not good enough. Just watch. Be a scientist observing a fascinating phenomenon. Do not interfere. Just observe. This awareness alone will begin to create distance between you and the behavior. Right now, you are identified with the validation seeking. You think it is who you are, but when you watch it, you realize that you are the watcher, not the behavior. You are the consciousness that observes the validation seeking, which means you are not the validation seeking itself. This is profound. This is the beginning of freedom, because anything you can observe, you are not. You can observe your thoughts, so you are not your thoughts. You can observe your emotions, so you are not your emotions. You can observe your validation seeking behaviors, so you are not those behaviors. You are the consciousness, the awareness, the witnessing presence that observes all of these things. And that awareness, that consciousness does not need validation, because it is already complete, it is already whole, it is already enough. But awareness alone is not enough. And this is where most spiritual teachings fail you. They tell you to be aware, to be present, to witness, but they do not give you practical tools for dealing with the deep conditioning that drives the validation seeking. So let me give you the second key. The second key is understanding the root. Why do you seek validation? Not the surface answer, not because I want people to like me, but the deep root. You seek validation because at some point, probably in childhood, you learned that your worth was conditional. You learned that you were loved when you were good, when you performed well, when you met expectations, and you were not loved, or love was withdrawn when you failed, when you disappointed, when you were just yourself without the performance. And that child inside you, that wounded child, is still trying to earn love, still trying to prove worth, still trying to be good enough. And that child is running your adult life, making your decisions, driving your behaviors, and you wonder why you feel so powerless. So here is what you do. You need to have a conversation with that child. I know this sounds strange, maybe even silly, but I am telling you, this is one of the most powerful things you can do. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and imagine yourself as a child, whatever age feels right, maybe 5, maybe 7, maybe 10. See that child clearly. See what they are wearing, where they are, how they look. And now, as your adult self, approach that child. Sit down with them and tell them what they needed to hear back then but never did. Tell them that they are enough, exactly as they are. Tell them that they do not need to perform. They do not need to be perfect. They do not need to earn love. Tell them that they are loved simply because they exist, simply because they are. Tell them that it is safe to be themselves, that they do not need to hide, that they do not need to pretend, and feel the emotion that comes up. You might cry. That is good. Crying is not weakness. Crying is release. You are releasing decades of accumulated pain, decades of trying to be good enough, decades of performing and pretending and hiding who you really are. Do this exercise every day for a week, every single day, and something will begin to shift. That desperate need for validation will begin to soften because you are giving yourself what you have been seeking from others. You are becoming your own source of validation, your own source of love, your own source of approval. And when you become your own source, you are free. You are no longer dependent on anyone or anything external. You are no longer a beggar. You are a king, a queen, sitting on the throne of your own being, complete, whole, sufficient. Now, let me address something that might be coming up for you right now. You might be thinking, but if I stop seeking validation, if I stop caring what others think, does not that make me selfish? Does not that make me arrogant? Does not that mean I will be alone? And this is exactly the kind of thinking that keeps you trapped. This is the voice of your conditioning, the voice of society, trying to pull you back into the matrix of validation seeking. Let me be very clear about this. Not seeking validation does not mean not caring about others. It does not mean being cruel or inconsiderate or selfish. It means that your actions come from a place of inner fullness rather than inner emptiness. When you seek validation, you are trying to get something from others. You are trying to fill your emptiness with their approval. When you do not seek validation, you give to others from your fullness, not to get anything back, but simply because giving is your nature when you are not in need. Think about it this way. A beggar cannot really give. Even when a beggar gives something, there is always a hidden motive, always an expectation of something in return. But a king who is already full, already complete, can give without any expectation because he does not need anything. He gives because he has abundance, and abundance naturally overflows. This is the difference between validation seeking behavior and authentic behavior. Validation seeking behavior is always a transaction, always a trade, always manipulative at its core, even when it looks nice. Authentic behavior is simply an expression of who you are, with no agenda, no expectation, no need for anything in return. And as for being alone, let me tell you something that might surprise you. When you stop seeking validation, you will lose some relationships. You will. Some people in your life are only there because of the mutual validation exchange you have going on. When you stop playing that game, they will leave. Let them. They were never really with you anyway. They were with your performance, with your mask, with the version of you that served their validation needs. Good riddance. But what you will gain, what you will absolutely gain, are real relationships, deep relationships, authentic relationships. Because when you stop performing, when you stop pretending, when you stop seeking validation, you give others permission to do the same. You create a space where real connection can happen. And real connection, my friend, is one of the most beautiful experiences available to human beings. But you cannot experience it while you are wearing a mask, while you are performing, while you are seeking validation. Let me give you the third key now, and this one is about action. Because understanding is important, awareness is important, healing the inner child is important. But none of it matters if you do not take action, if you do not actually change your behavior in the real world. So here is what I want you to do. I want you to do something every single day that you would not do if you were seeking validation. Something small, something manageable, but something real. Maybe it is posting on social media without filtering the photo, without crafting the perfect caption, just sharing something real. Maybe it is wearing something you love, but you have been afraid to wear because you worry what others will think. Maybe it is expressing an opinion that you know is unpopular in your social circle. Maybe it is saying no to something you do not want to do, even though saying yes would make you look good. Maybe it is admitting you do not know something instead of pretending you do. Maybe it is asking for help instead of pretending you have it all together. Start small. This is important. Do not try to revolutionize your entire life overnight, because your conditioning is strong, and if you push too hard, too fast, you will create a backlash. You will scare yourself back into the old patterns. Start with something small that feels a little uncomfortable but not terrifying. Do it. Notice what happens. Notice how the world does not end. Notice how people do not reject you, or if they do, notice how you survive it, how you are actually okay. Notice how there is a little bit of freedom in that action, a little bit of authenticity, a little bit of relief in not having to maintain the performance. And then tomorrow, do something else. And the next day, something else. Build your authenticity muscle. Build your not giving a damn what others think muscle. Because it is a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger with use. And here is something beautiful that will happen as you do this. You will start to discover who you actually are, because right now you do not really know. You think you do, but what you know is the performance, the mask, the conditioned self. The real you, the authentic you, is buried underneath all of that. And as you start to act without seeking validation, as you start to express yourself authentically, you will begin to discover your true preferences, your true desires, your true nature. You will discover that you actually like things you thought you did not like, and you do not like things you thought you did. You will discover passions you did not know you had, You will discover strengths you did not know existed. You will discover that you are far more interesting, far more capable, far more beautiful than the performance you have been putting on. Because the performance is always a diminishment. The performance is always smaller than the reality. You have been playing small to fit into other people's expectations, to gain their validation, and in doing so, you have hidden your magnificence even from yourself. Now, let me talk about something that might be uncomfortable for some of you, but it needs to be said. Let me talk about relationships and validation seeking, particularly romantic relationships, because this is where validation seeking does some of its most painful work. If you are divorced, if you are separated, if you are single at this stage of your life, there is a good chance that validation seeking played a role in the destruction of your relationship. Maybe you were so busy seeking validation from your partner that you turned them into a parent figure, constantly needing their approval, their reassurance, their validation of your worth. And that is exhausting for a partner. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone who is constantly needing reassurance, constantly needing validation, constantly needing to be told they are good enough. It is exhausting, and eventually people get tired and leave. Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe you were so busy seeking validation from the outside world, from your career, from social media, from friends, from other potential partners, that you neglected the relationship, that you were never really present, that your partner always felt like they were competing for your attention with the rest of the world. And eventually they got tired of competing and left. Or maybe, and this is common, you chose a partner based on validation rather than genuine connection. You chose someone who looked good on paper, someone who made you look good to others, someone whose validation of you by choosing you made you feel worthy. But there was no real connection, no real love, no real compatibility. And you spent years, maybe decades, in a relationship that looked good from the outside but was empty on the inside. And now you are here at 47, 52, 58, alone or in a relationship that feels dead, wondering what happened, wondering why you are not happy. And here is what I need you to understand, and this is critical if you want to have any chance at a real relationship. Whether it is rekindling something with an ex or building something new with someone else. You cannot have a real relationship while you are seeking validation. You cannot. Because validation seeking and love are opposites. Validation seeking is about need, about lack, about trying to get something from someone else to fill your emptiness. Love is about fullness, about abundance, about sharing your completeness with another complete person. Validation seeking creates dependent relationships, needy relationships, toxic relationships. Love creates interdependent relationships, healthy relationships, relationships where two whole people come together to celebrate existence, not to complete each other. So if you want a real relationship, if you want love, real love, not the needy, clingy, validation-seeking thing that masquerades as love, you have to stop seeking validation. You have to become whole first. You have to become complete first. You have to become your own source of validation, of love, of approval first. And then from that place of wholeness, from that place of completeness, you can enter into a relationship that is actually about love about connection, about sharing, not about need, not about lack, not about trying to get something from someone else. And let me tell you something else that might sting a little, but needs to be said. If your ex partner has moved on, if they are with someone else, if they seem happy and you are sitting there feeling jealous, feeling abandoned, feeling like you are not good enough, let me tell you what is really happening. They are not happier because the other person is better than you. They are happier because they are no longer in a validation seeking dynamic. Either they stopped seeking validation and found someone who is also not seeking validation, or they found someone whose validation seeking complements theirs in a way that yours did not. But here is the thing. If they stopped seeking validation and you did not, you will never get them back. Never. Because someone who has tasted freedom, someone who has tasted authentic relationship will never go back to the prison of validation seeking dynamics. Never. They would rather be alone than go back to that exhausting, soul crushing dance of mutual need and validation seeking. So if you want any chance at all of rekindling something with an ex-partner, or if you want to attract a healthy relationship with someone new, you have to stop seeking validation. Not as a strategy to get them back, because that would just be more manipulation, more validation seeking in disguise. But genuinely stop, become whole, become complete, become someone who does not need validation from anyone. And then maybe if it is meant to happen, a real relationship can emerge. But even if it does not, even if they never come back, even if you never find another partner, you will still have won, because you will have found yourself, you will have found your freedom, you will have found your wholeness. And that, my friend, is worth more than any relationship. Let me give you the fourth key now. And this one is about dealing with the fear that comes up when you stop seeking validation. Because make no mistake, fear will come up. Big fear, primal fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being alone, the fear of being seen as you really are and being found wanting. These fears are not small. These fears are wired into your survival system, because for most of human history, being rejected by the tribe meant death. If you were cast out, if you were alone, you died. So your brain is wired to avoid rejection at all costs, to seek approval, to fit in, to be validated by the group. This is not a character flaw. This is evolution. This is biology. This is your survival system doing what it was designed to do. But here is the thing. You do not live in a prehistoric tribe anymore. Being rejected does not mean death. Being alone does not mean you will starve or be eaten by predators. Your survival is not dependent on the approval of others. But your brain does not know that. Your brain is still running prehistoric software in a modern world. So when you start to stop seeking validation, when you start to be authentic, when you start to risk rejection by being yourself, your brain sounds the alarm. Danger, danger, you are going to die. And you feel that as fear, as anxiety, as panic, as that voice in your head saying, do not do this, play it safe, seek approval, fit in, perform, pretend. So here is what you do with that fear. You acknowledge it. You do not fight it. You do not try to make it go away. You acknowledge it. You say, "Thank you, fear. Thank you for trying to protect me. Thank you for doing your job. I understand that you think I am in danger, but I am actually safe. I am not going to die if someone rejects me. I am not going to die if someone does not validate me. I am safe." And then you do the thing that scares you anyway. You feel the fear and you do it anyway. Not because you are brave, but because you understand that the fear is based on outdated programming, and you are no longer willing to let outdated programming run your life. And here is what happens when you do this repeatedly. The fear gets smaller, not because the fear goes away, but because you build evidence that you can survive the thing you fear. Every time you risk rejection and survive, every time you are authentic and the world does not end, every time you stop seeking validation and discover that you are still okay, you are retraining your brain. You are updating the software. You are teaching your nervous system that authenticity is safe, that being yourself is safe, that not seeking validation is safe. And over time, the fear loses its power over you. Not completely, it might always be there to some degree, but it stops controlling you. It becomes background noise rather than the dominant voice in your head. Let me share something with you about fear that most people do not understand. Fear is not the problem. The problem is your relationship with fear. Most people try to avoid fear, try to make fear go away, try to never feel fear, and in doing so, they make fear more powerful. They make fear the enemy. And when fear is the enemy, you are always at war, always tense, always anxious, always trying to control your life in such a way that you never have to feel fear. And that is exhausting. And it is impossible, and it leads to a very small life. But when you change your relationship with fear, when you stop seeing fear as the enemy and start seeing fear as information, as a signal, as something to be acknowledged and then moved through rather than avoided, everything changes. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel fear and still be authentic. You can feel fear and still stop seeking validation. Fear becomes something you have rather than something that has you. Now, I want to talk about something that is probably affecting many of you watching this, and that is social media. Social media is validation seeking on steroids. It is a slot machine for validation, designed by very smart people who understand human psychology, designed to keep you addicted, designed to keep you coming back, designed to keep you seeking validation. Every like, every comment, every share gives you a little hit of dopamine, a little hit of validation, and your brain learns to crave that hit. And so you post more, you check more, you perform more, you curate your life more, all in service of getting more hits of validation. And the companies that run these platforms make billions of dollars from your addiction, from your need for validation, from your willingness to trade your time, your attention, your peace of mind, your authentic life for little digital crumbs of approval from people you barely know. So here is what I am going to suggest. And I know this will be difficult for some of you, but I am going to suggest it anyway. Take a break from social media. Not forever necessarily, but for at least 30 days. 30 days of no posting, no checking, no scrolling, no performing for the digital audience. 30 days to remember what it is like to live your life without constantly thinking about how to present your life. 30 days to do things simply because you want to do them, not because they will make a good post. 30 days to be with people without photographing the experience. 30 days to eat a meal without posting a picture of it. 30 days to have a thought without sharing it with the world. 30 days to just be without the performance, without the seeking, without the addiction to validation. And I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, but I will miss out. I will lose touch with people. I need it for my business. I need it to stay informed. These are all excuses. These are all the addict's rationalizations. You will not miss out on anything important. The people who matter will still be there in 30 days. Your business will survive. And if it will not survive 30 days without social media, then your business model is built on addiction, yours and others. And maybe that is worth examining. And you do not need social media to stay informed. In fact, you will probably be better informed without it, because you will not be drowning in a sea of opinions, hot takes, outrage, and carefully curated performances masquerading as information. Take the 30 days. I dare you, I challenge you, and notice what happens. Notice how the first few days are hard, how you feel anxious, how you feel the urge to check, how you feel like you are missing something. That is withdrawal. That is addiction. Notice it. Do not judge it. Just notice it. And then notice how, after a week or so, something starts to shift. You start to feel calmer. You start to be more present. You start to notice the world around you more. You start to have thoughts that you do not immediately feel the need to share. You start to have experiences that you simply experience without thinking about how to photograph them or caption them. You start to remember what it is like to just be alive without the constant performance, without the constant seeking of validation. And then, after 30 days, if you choose to go back to social media, you will go back different. You will go back with awareness. You will go back with choice. You will go back as someone who uses social media rather than someone who is used by it. You will be able to post without needing the validation. You will be able to scroll without comparing yourself to others. You will be able to see it for what it is, a tool, nothing more, nothing less, not a source of validation, not a measure of your worth, just a tool that you can use or not use depending on what serves you. Let me give you the fifth key now, and this one is about self-love. Because here is the truth that nobody wants to tell you. You cannot stop seeking validation from others until you start giving validation to yourself. You cannot stop looking for approval outside until you start approving of yourself inside. You cannot stop trying to prove your worth to the world until you recognize your own worth. And this is not about affirmations. This is not about standing in front of a mirror and saying I love myself 50 times while not believing a word of it. That is just more performance, just more pretending. Real self-love is something different. Real self-love is acceptance. Total acceptance of who you are, including the parts you do not like, including the parts you are ashamed of, including the parts you have been trying to hide your whole life. Here is an exercise I want you to do, and this one might be the most difficult thing I ask you to do, but it is also the most transformative. I want you to make a list of everything about yourself that you do not like, everything you are ashamed of, everything you judge yourself for, everything you try to hide from others. Be honest, be brutal, write it all down. Your physical flaws, your personality flaws, your mistakes, your failures, your secrets, everything. Write it all down. And then I want you to read that list out loud to yourself. And as you read each item, I want you to say, I accept this about myself. Not I love this, not I am proud of this. Just I accept this. I accept that I am overweight. I accept that I am insecure. I accept that I failed at my marriage. I accept that I am jealous. I accept that I am aging. I accept that I am not perfect. I accept, I accept, I accept. And something miraculous happens when you do this. The shame loses its power because shame thrives in hiding. Shame thrives in secrecy. Shame thrives when you are trying to hide parts of yourself from others and from yourself. But when you bring everything into the light, when you acknowledge everything, when you accept everything, shame has nowhere to hide. It dissolves. And what remains is you, the real you, imperfect, flawed, human, and absolutely worthy of love and acceptance exactly as you are. Not as you should be, not as you could be, not as you will be when you finally fix yourself, but as you are right now, in this moment, with all your imperfections, with all your flaws, with all your mistakes. You are worthy. You are enough. You are acceptable, not because of what you do or what you achieve or what others think of you, but simply because you exist, simply because you are a conscious being, simply because you are life expressing itself in a unique form that has never existed before and will never exist again. This is self-love, not narcissism, not arrogance, not thinking you are better than others, but simple acceptance of your own being, with all its light and shadow, with all its strengths and weaknesses, with all its beauty and ugliness. And when you have this, when you truly have this, you do not need validation from others because you have given yourself the ultimate validation, the validation of acceptance, the validation of belonging to yourself, the validation of being at home in your own skin. Now, let me address something that is probably coming up for a lot of you, especially those of you who are in your 40s, 50s, 60s. You are thinking, but it is too late for me. I have spent my whole life seeking validation. I have built my entire identity around it. I have made decisions based on it. I have created a life based on it. How can I change now? Is it not too late? And let me be very clear about this. It is never too late. Never. I do not care if you are 45 or 65 or 85. It is never too late to stop seeking validation. It is never too late to start living authentically. It is never too late to become yourself. Yes, you have spent decades building a life based on validation seeking. So what? Those decades are gone. You cannot get them back. You cannot change the past. But you can change now. You can change today. You can change in this moment. And every moment you spend being authentic, being yourself, not seeking validation, is a moment of freedom, is a moment of real life, is a moment that matters. And here is something beautiful about starting this journey at this stage of life. You have an advantage that younger people do not have. You have experience. You have perspective. You have seen enough of life to know that validation seeking does not work, that the approval of others does not bring lasting happiness, that performance is exhausting. Younger people are still caught in the illusion that if they just perform well enough, if they just get enough validation, they will finally be happy. But you know better. You have tried it. You have spent decades trying it, and you know it does not work. So you are actually in a better position to let it go, to stop seeking validation, to start living authentically. You have nothing to prove anymore. You have already proven whatever you were trying to prove, and you have discovered that the proving did not bring what you thought it would bring. So now you are free. Free to stop proving, free to stop performing, free to just be. And let me tell you something else. This is the perfect time in your life for reinvention. Your children, if you have them, are probably grown or nearly grown. Your career is probably established, or you are thinking about what comes next. Your relationships have probably gone through significant changes. You are at a crossroads, and crossroads are opportunities. You can keep going in the same direction, keep seeking validation, keep performing, keep pretending, and arrive at the end of your life with regret. Or you can choose a different direction. You can choose authenticity. You can choose freedom. You can choose to stop seeking validation and start living. And the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life can be the most authentic, the most free, the most alive years you have ever experienced. But only if you choose it. Only if you stop seeking validation. Only if you start being yourself. Let me give you the sixth key, and this one is about purpose. Because here is something interesting that happens when you stop seeking validation. You discover your real purpose. Not the purpose that looks good to others, not the purpose that makes you seem important, not the purpose that earns you validation, but your real purpose, the thing you are actually here to do, the unique contribution that only you can make. Right now, your purpose is probably something that sounds good, something that you can talk about at parties, something that earns you respect and validation. But is it really your purpose? Or is it just another performance, another way of seeking validation? Your real purpose is usually something much simpler, much more personal, much less impressive sounding than the purpose you tell people about. Your real purpose might be to create beauty even if nobody ever sees it. Your real purpose might be to be kind even if nobody ever acknowledges it. Your real purpose might be to learn, to grow, to experience, to love, to simply be present to the miracle of existence. Your real purpose does not need to be grand. It does not need to change the world. It does not need to earn you validation. It just needs to be real. It just needs to be yours. And when you are living your real purpose, when you are doing what you are actually here to do rather than what you think you should be doing to earn validation, life becomes effortless. Not easy, but effortless. There is a flow to it. There is a rightness to it. You wake up in the morning and you do not need to motivate yourself because you are not doing something to earn validation. You are doing something because it is an expression of who you are. You are not working towards some future reward, some future recognition, some future validation. You are living now expressing now, being now. And that is the difference between a life lived for validation and a life lived authentically. A life lived for validation is always postponed, always in the future, always conditional on getting enough validation. A life lived authentically is now, is present, is unconditional. So here is what I want you to do. I want you to ask yourself, if nobody would ever know, if you would never get any credit, if you would never be recognized or validated or praised, what would you do with your life? What would you create? What would you express? What would you contribute? What would bring you joy simply in the doing of it, not in the recognition of it? That is your real purpose. That is what you are actually here to do. And the tragedy is that most people never do it because it does not earn enough validation. They spend their lives doing things that look good to others, that earn praise and recognition and validation, and they die without ever doing the thing they were actually here to do. Do not let that be you. Do not waste the rest of your life seeking validation. Find your real purpose and live it, regardless of whether anyone ever validates you for it. Now, let me talk about something that is crucial to understand if you want to stop seeking validation. And that is the difference between healthy feedback and validation seeking. Because you might be thinking, but do I not need feedback? Do I not need to know how I am doing? Do I not need input from others? And yes, you do. Feedback is important. Feedback is how you learn, how you grow, how you improve. But there is a world of difference between seeking feedback and seeking validation. When you seek feedback, you are looking for information. You want to know what is working and what is not working so you can improve. You are not attached to the feedback being positive. You can receive criticism without it destroying you because you are not seeking validation. You are seeking information. You can receive praise without it inflating you because you are not seeking validation. You are seeking information. But when you are seeking validation, you cannot receive feedback. You can only receive validation or rejection. Criticism destroys you because you take it as a statement about your worth. Praise inflates you because you take it as a statement about your worth. You are on an emotional roller coaster, up and down, depending on whether the feedback validates you or not. And you cannot learn, you cannot grow, you cannot improve because you are too busy defending your ego, too busy seeking validation, too busy trying to prove that you are good enough. So here is how you know if you are seeking feedback or seeking validation. If you can receive criticism without becoming defensive, without feeling attacked, without your sense of self-worth being affected, you are seeking feedback. If criticism makes you defensive, makes you feel attacked, makes you question your worth, you are seeking validation. If you can receive praise without becoming inflated, without feeling superior, without needing more of it, you are receiving feedback. If praise makes you feel high, makes you feel superior, makes you crave more of it, you are seeking validation. The difference is in your attachment to the response. Feedback is information. Validation is a drug. And you have been addicted to the drug for so long that you have forgotten what it is like to simply receive information without it affecting your sense of worth. Let me give you the seventh key. and this one is about meditation. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another spiritual teacher telling me to meditate, hear me out. I am not talking about meditation as a practice to achieve something, to become more peaceful, to become more spiritual, to become enlightened. That is just more validation seeking, just seeking validation from yourself or from some imagined spiritual authority. I am talking about meditation as simply sitting with yourself as you are, without trying to change anything, without trying to achieve anything, without trying to become anything. Just sitting, just being, just witnessing. Because here is what happens when you meditate in this way. You start to see the constant chatter of your mind, the constant seeking, the constant judging, the constant comparing, the constant worrying about what others think. And you start to see that you are not that chatter. You are the one who hears the chatter. You are the awareness, the consciousness, the space in which the chatter happens. And that awareness, that consciousness, that space does not seek validation because it is already complete. It does not need anything because it is everything. It is not separate from existence. It is existence experiencing itself. This is not a concept to understand intellectually. This is something to experience directly. And you experience it through meditation, through simply sitting and being and witnessing, without trying to achieve anything, without trying to become anything, without seeking any validation even from yourself. Just sitting 20 minutes a day, that is all. Not to become peaceful, not to become spiritual, not to achieve enlightenment, but simply to remember who you are beyond the validation-seeking ego, beyond the performing self, beyond the conditioned identity. To remember the consciousness, the awareness, the being that you are and have always been. And when you remember this, when you experience this directly, not as an idea, but as a living reality, validation seeking simply drops. Not because you worked hard to drop it, not because you practice techniques to drop it, but because you see clearly that it is absurd. It is like being a millionaire who is begging for pennies. You are already complete, already whole, already enough, and you are seeking validation from others as if they could give you something you do not already have. It is absurd, and when you see the absurdity clearly, it simply drops. So meditate every day, not as a practice to achieve something, but as a coming home to yourself, as a remembering of who you are, as a resting in your own being without the constant seeking, without the constant performing, without the constant need for validation. Just sit, just be, just witness, and let everything else take care of itself. Now, I want to talk about something that affects many of you, and that is aging and validation seeking. Because our society is particularly cruel in this regard. Society tells you that your worth is tied to your youth, your beauty, your vitality, your productivity. And as you age, as your body changes, as your face shows lines, as your energy shifts, society's validation decreases. You get less attention, less recognition, less validation. And if you have been dependent on external validation your whole life, this is terrifying. This feels like death, because in a way it is death. It is the death of the validated self. the self that was valued for its youth, its beauty, its productivity. But here is what nobody tells you. This is actually a gift. Aging is actually a gift if you use it correctly, because aging forces you to find validation within yourself or to suffer. Those are your only two options. You can keep seeking external validation and suffer as it decreases with age, or you can stop seeking external validation and discover an inner source of worth that does not depend on your appearance, your productivity, or society's approval. Aging is life's way of forcing you to grow up spiritually, to stop being a child seeking approval from mommy and daddy and society, and to become an adult who knows their own worth independent of external validation. So, if you are experiencing the pain of aging, if you are experiencing the loss of external validation that comes with aging, good, use it. Use it as motivation to stop seeking validation. Use it as an opportunity to discover your real worth, your inherent worth, the worth that has nothing to do with how you look or what you do or what others think of you. Use it as an opportunity to become free, because the alternative is to spend the rest of your life desperately trying to hold on to validation that is slipping away, desperately trying to look younger, desperately trying to stay relevant, desperately trying to prove that you still matter. And that is exhausting, and it is a losing battle, and it will make you bitter and resentful and miserable. Or you can let go. You can stop seeking validation. You can discover that your worth has nothing to do with your age, your appearance, your productivity. You can discover that you are valuable simply because you are conscious, simply because you are alive. And then aging becomes not a loss but a liberation. Liberation from the tyranny of external validation. Liberation from the need to perform. Liberation from the need to prove anything to anyone. You become free to just be, to just exist, to just enjoy whatever time you have left, without the constant seeking, without the constant performing, without the constant need for approval. Let me give you the 8th key, and this one is about gratitude. Real gratitude, not the performance of gratitude, not the Instagram posts about being blessed, not the gratitude journal that you do because some self-help guru told you to. Real gratitude. And real gratitude is incompatible with validation seeking. Let me explain why. When you are seeking validation, you are focused on what you do not have. You do not have enough approval, enough recognition, enough validation. You are in a state of lack, of need, of wanting. But when you are in real gratitude, you are focused on what you do have. You are in a state of abundance, of fullness, of appreciation. And these two states cannot coexist. You cannot simultaneously feel that you lack validation and feel grateful for what you have. They are opposite orientations to life. So here is a practice that will help you stop seeking validation. Every night before you go to sleep, think of 3 things that happened that day that you are genuinely grateful for. Not things that make you look good, not things that others would be impressed by, but things that genuinely touched you, that genuinely made you feel alive, that genuinely brought you joy. Maybe it was the way the light looked coming through the window. Maybe it was a moment of connection with someone. Maybe it was a good cup of coffee. Maybe it was just the fact that you are alive, that you woke up this morning, that your heart is beating, that you can breathe, that you can see and hear and feel. Simple things, real things, things that have nothing to do with validation. And as you do this every night, something shifts. You start to orient your attention towards what is rather than what is lacking. You start to appreciate your life as it is, rather than constantly trying to make it into something that will earn validation. You start to feel full rather than empty. And when you feel full, you do not seek validation because you do not need it. You already have everything you need. You are already complete. You are already enough. This is the power of real gratitude, not the performance of gratitude, not gratitude as a technique to get something, but genuine appreciation for the miracle of existence, for the fact that you are here, that you are alive, that you are conscious, that you get to experience this strange and beautiful and terrible and wonderful thing called life. When you feel this, really feel this, validation seeking drops away like a snake shedding old skin. It is no longer needed. It is no longer relevant. You are too busy being grateful for what is to worry about what others think. Now, let me talk about money again, because I know this is important to many of you. And I want to give you something very practical about how validation seeking is probably destroying your financial life and what to do about it. When you seek validation through money, through wealth, through the appearance of success, you make terrible financial decisions. You buy things you cannot afford to impress people who do not care. You take on debt to maintain an image. You stay in jobs you hate because they pay well and give you status. You do not invest in your actual future because you are too busy spending on the present performance. And you wonder why, despite making good money, you never feel financially secure. Here is what I want you to do. I want you to audit your spending for the last 3 months. Go through every purchase, every expense, and ask yourself honestly, was this for me or was this for validation? Was this something I genuinely wanted and needed, or was this something I bought to impress others, to maintain an image, to earn validation? Be honest, and you will probably be shocked at how much of your spending is validation driven. The car that is more expensive than you need, the house that is bigger than you need, the clothes that are branded because you want others to see the brand, the vacations that you did not even enjoy because you were too busy photographing them for social media, the dinners at expensive restaurants when you would have been just as happy eating something simple at home. Add it up. Add up all the validation-driven spending, and you will see that you are probably spending thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars a year on validation. Now, imagine if you took that money and instead of spending it on validation, you invested it. You invested it in your actual financial future, in assets that grow, in experiences that genuinely fulfill you, in your freedom. Imagine how different your financial life would be. Imagine how much less stressed you would be. Imagine how much more secure you would feel. This is what stopping validation seeking can do for your finances. It can literally change your entire financial trajectory, because you stop hemorrhaging money on performance and start using money for what it is actually for, which is to support your life, your real life, not the performance of your life. So make a commitment right now. For the next 90 days, before you make any purchase at all beyond basic necessities, ask yourself, is this for me or is this for validation? And if it is for validation, do not buy it. Save that money, invest that money, use that money for something that actually serves your real life rather than your performed life. And watch what happens. Watch how your financial stress decreases. Watch how your sense of security increases. Watch how you start to feel more in control of your money rather than your money controlling you through the need for validation. Let me give you the ninth key. And this one is about saying no, because validation seeking makes it almost impossible to say no. When you seek validation, you say yes to things you do not want to do because you are afraid that saying no will make others think less of you, will make them withdraw their validation. So you say yes to social engagements you do not want to attend. You say yes to requests for your time and energy that you do not have to give. You say yes to relationships that drain you. You say yes to work that does not fulfill you. You say yes, 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 and you wonder why you are exhausted, why you are resentful, why you feel like you have no time for yourself, why your life does not feel like your own. The ability to say no is directly proportional to your freedom from validation seeking. When you do not need others' approval, you can say no without guilt, without fear, without anxiety. You can say no simply because something does not serve you, does not align with you, does not feel right to you. And you can say it clearly, kindly, but firmly. No, not maybe. Not I will think about it, when you know the answer is no. Just no. And you do not need to justify it. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to apologize for it. No is a complete sentence. So here is your practice. For the next week, I want you to say no to at least one thing every day that you would normally say yes to out of validation seeking. Someone asks you to do something you do not want to do, say no. Someone invites you to something you do not want to attend, say no. Someone makes a request of your time or energy that you do not have to give or do not want to give, say no. And notice what happens. Notice the fear that comes up. Notice the guilt. Notice the voice in your head saying, but they will think I am selfish. They will think I am mean. They will not like me anymore. Notice all of that and say no anyway. And here is what you will discover. Most of the time, nothing bad happens. People accept your no and move on. And even when they do not, even when they are disappointed or upset, you survive it. Their disappointment does not kill you. Their disapproval does not destroy you. You are okay. And every time you say no and survive it, you are building your freedom muscle. You are teaching yourself that you do not need others' approval to make choices that serve you. You are becoming sovereign, autonomous, free. And here is something beautiful that happens when you start saying no to what does not serve you. You create space for what does serve you. Right now, your life is probably so full of obligations and commitments and relationships and activities that you said yes to out of validation seeking, that there is no space for what you actually want, for what actually fulfills you, for what actually brings you joy. But when you start saying no, when you start creating boundaries, when you start protecting your time and energy, space opens up. And in that space, you can discover what you actually want to do, who you actually want to be with, how you actually want to live. You can start building a life that is actually yours rather than a life that is designed to earn validation from others. Now, let me talk about something that is probably affecting many of you, and that is the relationship between validation seeking and anxiety. Because validation seeking creates chronic anxiety. Think about it. When your sense of worth is dependent on others' opinions, you are constantly anxious because others' opinions are outside your control. You cannot control what others think of you. You can try to control it through performance, through people pleasing, through impression management, but ultimately, others' thoughts and opinions are theirs, not yours. So you live in a constant state of anxiety, constantly monitoring how others are responding to you, constantly adjusting your behavior to try to get the response you want, constantly worried that you are not getting enough validation or that you are going to lose the validation you have. This is exhausting. This is why you are tired all the time. Not because you are doing too much, but because you are expending enormous amounts of energy trying to control something that is fundamentally uncontrollable. You are trying to control others' opinions of you, and it is impossible, and the attempt is draining you. And then you wonder why you have anxiety, why you cannot relax, why you cannot sleep, why you feel tense all the time. It is because you are living in a constant state of vigilance, constantly monitoring for threats to your validation, constantly trying to maintain your performance, constantly afraid that you are going to be found out, that people are going to see through the performance and reject you. But here is the good news. The moment you stop seeking validation, anxiety drops dramatically. Not completely. Anxiety is part of being human, but dramatically, because you are no longer trying to control the uncontrollable. You are no longer dependent on others' opinions for your sense of worth. You are no longer performing. You can relax. You can just be. You can let others think whatever they want to think because it does not affect you. Their opinions are their business, not yours. You know your worth, and it does not depend on what they think. So if you struggle with anxiety, if you have tried everything and nothing seems to work, consider that the root of your anxiety might be validation seeking. Consider that you might be anxious because you are trying to control others' opinions of you, and that is an impossible task. And consider that the solution might not be medication or therapy or breathing exercises, though those things can help, but simply stopping the validation seeking, simply letting go of the need for others' approval, simply knowing your own worth independent of what anyone else thinks. And watch how the anxiety softens, how the tension releases, how you can finally breathe, finally relax, finally just be. Let me give you the 10th key, and this one is about authenticity in relationships. Because I know many of you are wondering, how do I have relationships if I am not seeking validation? Will not people leave me? Will not I be alone? And the answer is no, but the relationships will be different. They will be real. Right now, most of your relationships are probably based on mutual validation seeking. You validate them, they validate you. You perform for them, they perform for you. You both pretend to be something you are not, and you both call it friendship or love. But it is not. It is a transaction. It is a mutual agreement to lie to each other, to perform for each other, to validate each other's performances. But when you stop seeking validation, when you start being authentic, some of these relationships will end. They will end because they were never real in the first place. They were based on the performance, and when the performance stops, there is nothing left. And this is painful, but it is also necessary. You cannot have real relationships while maintaining fake ones. You cannot be authentic with new people while pretending with old people. You have to let go of the fake to make room for the real. But here is what happens when you start being authentic, when you stop seeking validation, when you stop performing, you start attracting different people. You start attracting people who are also authentic, who are also not seeking validation, who are also tired of the performance. And these relationships are different. They are deeper, they are more real, they are more satisfying. Because you are not performing for each other, you are being with each other. You are not trying to impress each other. You are sharing with each other. You are not seeking validation from each other. You are celebrating existence together. And these relationships, these authentic relationships, are what you have been seeking all along. This is what you thought validation would give you. You thought if you got enough validation, you would feel connected, you would feel loved, you would feel seen. But validation never gives you that, because validation is about the performance, not about you. But authentic relationship without validation seeking, gives you exactly what you have been looking for. Real connection, real love, real intimacy. The experience of being seen and accepted as you actually are, not as you pretend to be. So yes, you will lose some relationships when you stop seeking validation. But what you will gain is so much more valuable. You will gain the possibility of real relationship, real connection, real love. And one real relationship is worth 100 fake ones. One authentic connection is worth 1,000 validation exchanges. So let the fake relationships go. Grieve them if you need to, but let them go and make space for the real. Make space for authentic connection. Make space for people who see you, the real you, and love you not because of your performance, but because of your being. Now, I want to give you something very practical, a daily practice that will help you stop seeking validation and start living authentically. Every morning, when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you check social media, before you start thinking about what you need to do that day, I want you to take 5 minutes to connect with yourself. Sit quietly, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and ask yourself, who am I today? Not who do I need to be for others, not what role do I need to play, not what performance do I need to give, but who am I today? What do I feel? What do I need? What do I want? What is true for me today? And listen, really listen. Listen to the quiet voice inside that knows, that has always known, that is you beyond the conditioning, beyond the performance, beyond the validation seeking. That voice might be quiet because you have been ignoring it for so long, but it is there. It has always been there, and it knows. It knows who you are. It knows what you need. It knows what is true for you. So listen to it, honor it, let it guide your day. And then as you go through your day, keep checking in with that voice. Before you say yes to something, check in. Is this true for me? Before you post something on social media, check in. Is this authentic or is this performance? Before you agree with someone to avoid conflict, check in. Is this what I actually think or am I just seeking validation? Keep checking in with yourself, with that authentic voice, with your truth, and let that guide you rather than the need for validation. This is a practice. This is not something you do once and you are done. This is something you do every day, multiple times a day, for the rest of your life. Because the conditioning to seek validation is strong and it will try to pull you back. Society will try to pull you back. Your old patterns will try to pull you back. So you need to keep practicing, keep checking in, keep choosing authenticity over performance, keep choosing your truth over others' approval. And over time, it gets easier. Over time, authenticity becomes your default rather than performance. Over time, you become so rooted in your own being that others' opinions simply do not affect you anymore. Let me share with you now what life looks like on the other side of validation seeking, because I want you to have a vision of what you are moving towards, what is possible for you. On the other side of validation seeking, you wake up in the morning and you do not immediately check your phone to see who validated you overnight. You wake up and you feel grateful to be alive, grateful for another day, grateful for the opportunity to exist, to experience, to be. You go through your day doing what genuinely fulfills you, not what looks good to others. You make choices based on your truth, not on what will earn approval. You say yes when you mean yes, and no when you mean no, and you do not feel guilty about either. You have relationships that are real, that are deep, that are satisfying, where you are seen and loved for who you actually are. You do not perform in these relationships. You do not pretend. You are just yourself, and that is enough. In fact, that is everything. You spend your money on what actually serves your life, not on maintaining an image. You invest in your future, in your freedom, in your peace. You do not compare yourself to others because you understand that everyone is on their own journey and comparison is meaningless. You do not scroll through social media feeling inadequate. You either do not use social media or you use it consciously as a tool without it affecting your sense of worth. You age gracefully because your worth is not tied to your appearance. You watch your body change and you do not panic. You do not desperately try to hold on to youth. You accept the changes as a natural part of life, and you discover that there is a beauty in aging, a depth, a wisdom, a freedom that youth does not have. You pursue your real purpose, the thing you are actually here to do, regardless of whether it earns recognition or validation. You create, you contribute, you express, not for applause, not for approval, but because it is your nature, because it is an overflow of your being. You feel peaceful, not because your life is perfect, not because you have no problems, but because you are not at war with yourself anymore. You are not trying to be something you are not. You are not seeking validation from others. You are just being yourself. And there is a deep peace in that, a deep relaxation, a deep sense of coming home. You feel free. free from the tyranny of others' opinions, free from the exhausting performance, free from the constant seeking and striving and trying to prove your worth. You know your worth, and it does not depend on anything external. So you are free. This is what is possible for you. This is what waits for you on the other side of validation seeking. But you have to choose it. You have to commit to it. You have to practice it every single day, because the pull of validation seeking is strong, the conditioning is deep, and it will not release you easily. But if you commit, if you practice, if you keep choosing authenticity over performance, keep choosing your truth over others' approval, keep choosing freedom over validation, you will get there. You will wake up one day and realize that you do not seek validation anymore, that you are free, that you are yourself, and that is the greatest gift you can give yourself. So let me leave you with this. Your life is not a performance. Your worth is not determined by others' opinions. You are not here to earn validation. You are here to be yourself, to express yourself, to experience existence in your unique way. And the moment you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but in the very core of your being, everything changes. Not some things, everything. Your relationships change, your work changes, your sense of self changes, your peace changes, your freedom changes, everything changes. So stop seeking validation, stop performing, stop pretending, stop trying to be what others want you to be. Just be yourself, the real you, the authentic you, the you that exists before conditioning, before society, before the need for approval. That you is magnificent. That you is enough. That you is worthy of love and acceptance and celebration, exactly as it is. Not as it should be, not as it could be, but as it is right now, in this moment. You are enough. Stop seeking validation from others and start giving validation to yourself. Start accepting yourself. Start loving yourself. Start being yourself, and watch how life transforms. Watch how everything you have been seeking through validation, connection, love, peace, fulfillment comes to you naturally when you stop seeking it and start being yourself. This is the great paradox. When you stop seeking, you find. When you stop performing, you connect. When you stop trying to be worthy, you discover you always were.